Welcome to another episode of the Sparkles of Gold Astrology Manifesto podcast. My name is Nicolas Polimenakos, aka Sparkles of Gold. This week's episode has to do with the astrological transits from about December 12th to maybe the 19th if I go that far. And as always, anything else that's going to flow through me in the moment. I don't do many takes, actually. I just try to do these on the fly with some notes and some charts in front of me on the computer screen that you do not see. But I will do my best to put it all together for you. I'm going to start with Monday, December 12th here. And I'm doing this one a little later. I'm actually doing it December 12th in the afternoon. Today's an interesting day. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The astrological vibe and weather is decent. It's okay. And the reason being is today on the 12th, the sun in Sagittarius at 20 degrees is making a interesting aspect with Saturn in Aquarius. It's called a sextile. In a sense, it's kind of a really quick dialed in relationship that can have a certain flow that happens through it if it's taken advantage of. And Saturn in Aquarius wants to do some work with the lofty, inspirational, expansive sun in Sagittarius. So this kind of vibe is like, hey, you can get some work done. You can kind of make some of those ideas and visions that you have and put them into play with the help of Saturn in Aquarius. Even though it's exact today at 20, it lingers, into the next day on the 13th. And, there's other things going on, obviously. It was not too long ago that Venus, within several days before on the weekend, Venus went into Capricorn after being in Sagittarius. So Venus here is now in a very stable relationship, wants to be with anything that it relates to. There's rules and boundaries and practicality, so on and so forth. Capricorn energy lives on structure and foundation and boundaries and reality, being ruled by Saturn. So Venus has entered there. Mercury entered there not too long ago. And interesting today, and I might do a separate podcast. I'm going to work on a video on this, but Mercury today is at 8 degrees Capricorn. This 8 degree space, this place is what they call the beginning of the shadow period of the Mercury retrograde. It's about to happen here soon towards the end of the month because Mercury was going to go retrograde here soon in Capricorn. And during the retrograde cycle, before, during, and after, 8 degrees of Mercury in Capricorn is a big point in the story. So right now, that's where Mercury is today. I just thought I'd throw that little factoid in there. And I also will throw in the fact that in the past weekend, the moon was in Cancer and made harmonious relationships, trines to Neptune and Pisces, Jupiter and Pisces. And we left that and the moon came into Leo. And so today on Monday, December 12th, I will also add that at this point, the chart I'm looking at, the moon is halfway through Leo. There's a reason why I'm saying this and we'll get to it. So the next day on the 13th, the moon is in opposition of Saturn in Aquarius when the moon hits 20 degrees earlier in the day on December 13th, Tuesday. And so I'm just pointing this out because if you have the fixed energy in your chart and you have any planets in fixed or angles or any major something in your chart at around 19, 20, 21 degrees, this can kind of be a contentious moment. Saturn's wanting to put the brakes on the Leo moon a little bit, but not to think about it in that sense, but if you're thinking about anything, any two planets that are opposite of each other, I think the main goal here is to try to branch the two and balance them. So Saturn can bring structure and crystallization to the energy and creativeness of the Leo moon, and something great can be formed concretely with creative energy and creative expression of the Leo moon. And typically Leo moon, the base core word sometimes you see is creative expression, but the other one is confidence. And Saturn can give some backing to this confidence when they balance each other out. At this point, I will say, too, that the Jupiter is still at 29 degrees Pisces. I'm just noting that here just so on and so forth, because we've been tracking Jupiter this year when it was in Pisces for the first half of the year. Then when it went into Aries briefly, then went retrograde, and then it's gone back to this point here, 28, 29 degrees, Jupiter in Pisces. This is about to end here very soon, within a week. So I just want to point that out. And we will go to the next day on the 14th. This now, some of the energy that I talked about here now with the Saturn sextile Sun and pretty decent energy starts to switch up a little bit. And the moon at this point on the 14th is entered Virgo, and Virgo's a mutable sign, and we know Sagittarius is a mutable sign, and we're getting to the point here where it's the last quarter moon. So about a week ago from this date, we had the full moon in Gemini. If you remember, it was conjunct Mars in Gemini. Here we are about a week later, the last quarter here. And so the moon will square the sun in Sagittarius. So if you're a mutable person and have mutable planets, you will be affected by this. It'll be a little contentious, just like I think a lot of interesting mutable energy. When we started with the new moon that happened in Sagittarius, it was filled with hope and optimism. And then we slowly got to 2 weeks later, we got to this full moon with Mars opposing the full moon. It's contentious and verbal spats and too much flowing in the mind, so on and so forth. Now we're a week later, and I think there's still remnants of this. Luckily, the Virgo moon is ruled by that Mercury in Capricorn, which wants to bring straightforwardness, facts, and reality. So just remember that, okay? But I also want to say that besides the moon eventually squaring the sun, here's where the bigger deal is. The moon in Virgo is going to square Mars in Gemini, and it's currently retrograde, which goes back a week to the week before with the full moon. So there's another chapter in this story here that we're going in, and this could be a lot of heady energy again. And Virgo in a sense wants to strive towards perfection and purity in many ways, and it does it through the mind, and then through the mind and through the body and through the hands. It performs these daily tasks and seeks to create efficiency in thought, in structure, and in daily rituals. And here, there's a little too much of that going on. Again, thanks to the Mercury in Capricorn there, we have some help, but still, it's something to pay attention to this day and going into Thursday on the 15th, which I just flipped to a chart here, and I'm looking at it. At this point, the moon is still in Virgo, and on Thursday the 15th, I also want to stop here for a second because I know Mercury at this point is in Capricorn, an earth sign, so it's working well with the Virgo moon in an earth sign. So there's that. So there's solutions to what is going on for themes of the week. I also will say here too that the moon in Virgo is also making a trine to Uranus in Taurus, going from Wednesday to Thursday, December 15th. So you have some stability and actually some type of energy with Uranus affecting the moon can bring a new way of looking at those systems that are created and need refinement that the Virgo moon likes to deal with. And Uranus and Taurus bring something new in and actually can make it fun and exhilarating if one were to take that on. If you have a Virgo moon and you have Virgo stuff, you can smile and let the electricity flow you and take a chance on things and enjoy and ride that lightning energy that Uranus brings to the moon. It's kind of a side joke, Virgos. I know you guys very well. What would this world be without the day by day preciseness, the knack and the gift for looking at systems that we all use every day and finding the piece and the part in those systems that are not running efficiently, and having the eye and the talent and the gift to pull that faulty part out and to insert the new part out to make it flow, not just for your world, but like for the world. And I think Virgos don't get enough credit. They're just busily working in the background, and their nervous systems are all riled up, and they're not sleeping. This is when they're off balance, by the way. day. Their digestive systems are off. But when they do flow, and I think this is important too, if you know someone, this is another side rant here. If you know any Virgos in your life, Virgo energy, you got to give them a break and acknowledge the gift that they have. And if you are a major Virgo person, or you have a Virgo moon or planets in Virgo, you got to give yourself a break sometimes and tell yourself, like, I did good. It sometimes, and this is what I say with Virgo energy, the imperfect is perfect. You feel me? So interestingly enough, later on the December 15th, on the Thursday, as the moon, I'm looking at it, mid-afternoon Pacific time is 19 degrees. Eventually 10 degrees later, it's going to, overnight and early morning, it's going to oppose Jupiter in Pisces and also oppose Neptune in Pisces. So that kind of goes into Friday. But once we hit Friday afternoon, we have the moon in Libra, who's going to bring some calmness in style and grace aesthetically with all things into the next 2 days, into the weekend. And not only that, we're inching towards a building and waxing towards an interesting, fascinating aspect that you don't want to let go of and don't want to forget. And that is Mercury at this point on Fridays at 14 degrees Capricorn. And it is waxing is building up towards a trine to Uranus and Taurus at 15 degrees. It's interesting here. We've had a lot of mercurial energy in the last month because of the new moon and the full moon, and it's not over yet. Mercury's a major player here, and it's going over these degrees that eventually it's going to go retrograde and go back over again, and then go back over it again. And so at this point, we have to kind of pay attention to the thoughts, the concrete thoughts that you have, and in Capricorn and in the Capricorn part of your chart. And you want to use Uranus trining Mercury as inspiration, as in there's a little bit, not of luck involved in here, but there is surprise actually. And so when you look to the Taurus part of your chart and look to the Capricorn part of your chart, you could see the relationship between the two. And so here, Uranus is throwing a surprise. There's something out of the blue coming. And Capricorn, in general, energy likes to build and work upon things. So something that's been building in that part of your chart, something that has been constructed or wanting to be constructed, whether it's still in your mind or it's come out of your mind space into the material world, gets an interesting surprise and forward break here. So pay attention. Sometimes this happens really subtly. It could be the idea to help you bring your project or something that you're constructing in your head to the next step. It could be, and it all depends on where it is in your chart. So remember, you got to go look at where Taurus is in your chart, and then you got to go look to where Capricorn is in your chart. So sometimes, this could be in your relationship house and some other house or a career house or whatever. So if you know your chart, go look at those two places. You'll see the relationship. And Uranus is already starting Friday into the weekend, is going to throw that interesting thing out of the blue that you thought maybe could never happen possibly, or that you didn't think about or dream of, but it appears. So I love this aspect in earth signs because it's constructive and can be used and crystallized because of Capricorn and it being ruled by Saturn. And currently Saturn in Aquarius is there to help bring that ingenuity and put it all together, and that forward thinking and that progressive energy to move forward on whatever it is, on whatever those parts of your chart is. I think here you have to remember these interesting points between 14, 15, 16, 17 degrees fixed signs, because they've been a major player the whole year in the eclipses with Uranus in Taurus, which is currently retrograde, with Saturn in Aquarius, which is not retrograde anymore, and it's moving forward. All the fixed stuff have had the fixed signs and fixed angles have had this major story, and a difficult one. I mean, let's be real. We've had the eclipses there, everything. I could tell you that because I know fixed energy very well. So I could tell you from my own world. But I think here you don't give hope. Don't give up on hope, And I think there's a dream, but then when you're actually practically working on something and you can see things manifest in front of you, even if it feels out of the blue and out of your control sometimes, a surprise, like this Uranus Mercury trine, you enjoy that shit, like it doesn't come out ever very often, So that's what I want to tell you into Friday, into Saturday. Again, by Saturday, the 17th of December, the moon's in Libra. And at that point during the day, I will say here, like I always do, and I always will, that when we get to okay, let me take a couple steps back, because a couple days earlier on the 14th, I didn't mention this. I didn't mention that Mercury in Capricorn squared Chiron in Aries. Okay, so that happened earlier in the week. Then when we get to several days later, and right now I'm on the 17th, but we get to several days later, there's a Mars eventually starts to build up, like a Mars Chiron sextile. And so I always throw in a Chiron thing for you all who are following this. It's happening in the background. It's there. On December 17th, Saturday, to go back to that day, just know that the moon in Libra is going to oppose that Chiron in Aries. I think sometimes when you have a Mars-Venus story, not sometimes, but always times, it either flows or there's a detachment in space needed, or there's a way that Venus and Mars need to find a way together. I say that because Mars rules Chiron in Aries, Venus rules the moon in Libra here. So you have major Aries planets or Chiron in Aries or Aries things around 10, 11, 12 degrees. Just pay attention to that day, to the ongoing Chiron story. So yes, and then I mentioned that on the 17th. What else? I can go in the 18th. Like when we go into the 18th, the moon's going to sextile on the Sunday, the sun, which is cool beans, I would say. At that point, the sun's at 26 degrees, and the Libra moon in air sign of Libra is at 26. So we have that going. That's pretty much how I can go things. I mean, I can go a little bit more, and I will, because let's just say then we know Venus is in Capricorn. And actually, I will say this. On December 18th, I can't believe I almost forgot this, to go off what I was just saying. Venus hits 11 degrees here on the weekend of December 17th and 18th, and that's where it also squares Chiron and Aries. So, the practicality of Capricorn and the seriousness of it is great for a lot of things. But sometimes when you're talking to a sensitive Mars-ruled somebody with Aries planets that Chiron's affecting them, they're raw and they'll get set off. And so when you get like Capricorn energy, it comes off authoritative and like, buck up, you need to this or tough it out. And sometimes if you've been dealing a wound here with like Chiron and Aries, you don't want to hear that. You just want to say F off, what are you saying? Like, get off me, but that tension is happening between Venus and Capricorn and Chiron and Aries. And interestingly enough, you had that other cardinal sign, the moon in Libra, that was trying to come across in the cardinal mind way, like, oh, everything's going to be okay, when it was opposing Chiron and Aries. And it's not for the Chiron and Aries. It's not for the Aries person. It's not okay. I'm hurting, or I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm just giving you some little background energy there with the Chiron story. Within hours on Sunday, December 18th, the moon is going to go into Scorpio, and that's where it always is interesting for the month, because that day, the next 2.5 days, it's going to cross the South Node into the 19th of Monday, December. It hits the South Node in Scorpio, the ongoing eclipse story that's happening, and we'll have its oppositions to the North Node and to Uranus and Taurus. So it's always an interesting dynamic that's happening every month. I will throw this one extra tidbit, though. At that point, when I'm looking at a chart midday on Monday, December 19th, I'm going to go by the hours here, and if you hear me clicking, we hit 15 degrees at night when it's opposing Uranus. the moon in Scorpio is going to oppose Uranus in Taurus late Monday night, early evening for the East Coasters, the 20th. But if we keep going into the next day on the Tuesday, the moon is actually building up to something I really like. And this is the last deal you can do with a watery moon trining Jupiter in Pisces. It's a thing where I took advantage. Many people took advantage of not too long ago, a couple weeks ago on a Thursday. It happened during Jupiter hour. There was the moon in Pisces conjunct Jupiter at 29 degrees on Jupiter Day Thursday. If you're into astrological magic or doing elections, that was a big day several weeks ago. This past weekend, I talked about the watery Cancer moon made its flowing trine to Jupiter in Pisces. But at this point, it gets super close. But the moon is going towards Jupiter in Pisces at 29, but it doesn't catch it because on Tuesday, and let me get this right. It's just kind of an interesting thing by the hour I'm looking at, but basically within that Monday to Tuesday, Jupiter goes back into Aries and leaves Jupiter in Pisces for good. It won't be there for another 12 years. It's a goodbye, but I think the 29 degree point of Pisces is just a fascinating place. And there is a vision, and the divine is involved. And when I say that, I'm talking about everything and the nothing. I'm talking about like where we maybe all come from, or where we all go, where transcendence can happen. You know, it's there's the fantasy and fog of it all. But beyond all that, when focused, it's where dreams are made, and dreams have come up with, and prayer is set forth and petitioned, and there's a letting go here, a complete surrendering, and the surrendering is a positive thing. And so that's the kind of action that's happening like from Monday to Tuesday in the background there. You know, the Scorpio moon's applying, but it never fully makes the exact trine with Jupiter and Pisces because, early morning Tuesday is when Jupiter goes into Aries. And that's for another podcast, and where it's going to steamroll through Aries for 5 straight months and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. There's a 22-minute thing I just did here off the top of my head. I'm going to stop with the transits here. And for those of you who made it this far, I'm going to make a video on this today and put it up on my YouTube and Instagram. Not just what I just said, but something else. And I'll say it here at the end. And this is a personal thing. This past weekend, I don't normally talk about personal things, but it's been an interesting, challenging year for me in a lot of ways. And in other ways, I've been constructing my channel and my practice and getting clients. And there's a lot of you who've never known me, and you've been listening to me, and you've seen and heard my words. On a personal level, I last week had to go back to Seattle, where I'm from, and I was making myself go there because I didn't quite know why. There was an event I went to help support, but it was really because of a headspace that I've been in, and I just needed to drive because of certain challenges that I'm dealing with. And my family lives there, and I woke up. I stayed there one night, and I woke up on Friday morning and into the Friday afternoon, and someone very close to me, my mom, was working outside, and I was downstairs. I was wondering why I was smelling an odd smell. Like I smell something, but like whatever. It must have been 10 minutes later where I heard a fire alarm go off, and I opened the door to downstairs, and the whole downstairs was smoking. And I was like, holy crap, like what the fuck is going on? And I ran up the stairs, and it was smoke everywhere, and I opened the door into the kitchen, and the stove, there was something placed there that shouldn't have been placed there. It was an accident and all this stuff, and it was on fire. I it's interesting in those situations, and I'll be a little bit more personal here. I think sometimes my Mars and Aquarius, my Aquarius moon comes into play here, where I can just do stuff, and it's been that way my whole life. Like there could be a car accident on the corner, and everybody's freaking out, but somehow I can work in high pressure situations and detach emotionally and just do. And that's what happened there. And for some reason, I don't know how I grabbed this crazy thing on fire and it didn't burn my hands, and I got it outside, and my mom didn't even know, and she was just outside doing her thing. How's she supposed to know? You know what I mean? And eventually came in, and it was really bad. I think I definitely, if I've had experience with fire and stuff, it just takes minutes, and I think it goes in stages, and it can just within seconds. And I think that's what was about to happen that next stage, because the way the fire was going, it was about to catch on everything else in the kitchen. And so, so I'm running on adrenaline doing this, and, house is just great. It just couldn't see through it, open all the windows, so on and so forth. My mom's cleaning, open the windows, but I won't get into how it happened and so on and so forth. But, the reason why I'm telling you this is when I left that day and I was coming back and driving and considering all the challenges, that I'm going through. You don't know what's going to happen. Things can change instantly. You always hear about this. But when it comes to actual life, or the people you love, or things that you acquire in your life that mean a lot to you, they could be gone. A person can be gone within seconds, within minutes. And, I will say this because this is the type of person that I am, if you haven't caught this, but the angels guided me. If you believe in that stuff or not, or whatever you believe in, something did. Because I wasn't supposed to be there. So I'm saying this as a thing here, towards the end of this year, that you got people in your life that are important to you. Tell them that. You got beef or conflict with people in your life, family members, siblings, and you kind of have the coldness, and it's turned from coldness, has gone from months to years. Can you get to a place of saying, hey, I love you, past their differences? Because you don't know. Sometimes there's situations where it's so hardcore and traumatic, abusive that you can't have sorries and forgiveness and all that, and I get that. But, this is what's lingering me for the last so many days. And this is not the first time for me in my life to be in certain situations. And I don't talk about it much. I don't know what to call it, gift or being lucky, or I don't know, it's because I'm a child of Hermes, but I think it's beyond all that. And right now, as you hear this, just remember deeper things, the most important things, and honor them and cherish them. Appreciate you listening to the podcast. I'll be trying to do another weekly one. I'm working on a couple of YouTube videos right now. Thanks for listening to that personal story. And until next time, man, be good to you, okay?